Legally in Love, written and narrated by C. Taylor, edited to meet YouTube guidelines. To purchase the unedited book, please click the link in the description. Chapter 3B. From Emma's perspective. Emma stifled a groan. What was wrong with her? He opened the door wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans, hair no longer tied back, now brushed his shoulders and damp from a recent shower had her so distracted all her filters had failed. She'd already admitted to helping with the nanny, being in his home before, his son called her mommy, and now she just admitted to knowing Rachel. She was sounding more and more like a stalker by the moment. If he made a grab for his phone, she needed to make a run for it. The last thing she needed was to be arrested for being the creepiest little sister of a best friend ever. You know Rachel? His words were slow and deliberate. His arm stayed folded, wasn't making any movement toward the phone, yet. She needed to explain quickly. Choosing her words carefully, she continued, "Yes, I was doing some supervised counseling work at the hospital during the time she was there after Luke was born. Her doctor was concerned she would go back to her previous life and asked for help. We talked through a lot of things. I thought we were making progress. I did everything I could think of, offered any rehab center she wanted, ongoing counseling, and programs that would help her with housing. I thought she would accept the help, but she just disappeared. The ache of not being able to help her still hurt. She would get calls from Rachel from time to time, mainly just checking up on Luke or John, always from a different number and different place when she would track the call. At least she was smart enough not to admit that part. After she left, Christian asked for help finding a good nanny since he knew I worked as one in college, so I. Wait. You worked as a nanny in college? Emma Delaney from Silver Spoon Heights, everything given to her from infancy, worked as a nanny? That comment really stung. Was that what he thought of her? Yeah, well, that level of privilege comes with expectations. And since Aline would only pay for law school, I had to find some creative ways to finance the additional book and fees for classes I actually wanted to take. Like counseling? He asked, much softer. His face looked pained, like he realized he hurt her in some way, but why would he care? Psychology, actually. I was working toward my clinical license when she was there. I felt so useless when I couldn't help her. I almost didn't finish. I'm so sorry, John. I really tried. Luke had another toy in his hand he wanted to show her. It was a good excuse to turn away from John so he didn't see her struggle with emotions. But you did finish it? His question was even softer than the last. She just nodded her head, not trusting her voice just yet. She called me about a month later, mainly to ask about you and Luke, but she shared a little more of her pain. I thought if she ever asked, I wanted to be licensed to get her whatever help she would need. I finished my license and I've been working on my reputation since. She felt her voice break again and took a breath. I'm really sorry I failed her, John. She was finally able to get out. Emma. She didn't even tell me any of it, and we were best friends. The fact that she told you anything is a big deal. So you became a fully licensed clinical psychologist because of her? Oh, here comes another embarrassing part of her story. Well, by then I was helping Kim with Luke while you were working, and he pretty much had me wrapped around his little finger. I really wanted him to know how much his mother loved him. It's important for children to know that, and although we can tell him what she went through when she was pregnant, I really wanted her to be able to tell him face to face. She pretended to mainly be focused on Luke, but kept track of John out of the corner of her eye. He still wasn't making any moves to grab his phone. From John's perspective, you helped Kim with Luke from the beginning? His head was spinning. It was like he was finding out he'd been living his dream life this whole time. She's really good at developmental and child psychology, as you know, but she didn't have a lot of experience with infants. So, yes, I helped her for the first few months, then on and off until about a year ago. She trailed off, barely whispering the last words. A year ago, about the same time as our last case? Why did he feel she was about to admit to something that would change everything in his world forever? You said you would be in a meeting with your client until 5, but you got home early. I hid in that closet until you went upstairs, and I haven't been back in the house since. Her face was about as red as he'd ever seen it. Look, I know this all sounds very stalkery, but I just really wanted to help. Ever since I met you all those years ago, you've been this amazing guy that's just so good at everything. Then you saved me from that college party, and I've been kind of a super fan since. I've seen how hard you work and how stressed you were when Luke was born and Rachel left. I couldn't stop myself from trying to make things at least a little bit easier for you. Yep, world upside down. Nobody did anything for free. Nobody. His world revolved around that premises. If anyone offered you anything, it was at a cost. The trick was to always find out the cost before making the agreement. Charity was a scam, kindness was an act and a manipulation. Nothing came for free. He was on his own. The responsibilities he bore were his alone, and nobody else would be touched by them. Yet here she had stealthily made her way into his life without letting him know. John had credited Christian with finding Kim, who was a complete godsend, but it was Emma. Rachel had even trusted Emma enough to call her after she left Luke. So much of his life she had taken on without judgment, without asking for anything in return, without him even knowing. How was she real? Something in his chest caught. Emotion he wasn't ready to feel started filling his eyes. He couldn't let her see him like this. Luckily, Luke started to fuss a little. Emma immediately turned to him. He smiled and thought, "My boy," again, and got an iron grip on his emotions before she could turn back to him. I only had an avocado at my place for him to eat. I was on my way to Chuck E. Cheese when Kim called, so he's probably pretty hungry. She lifted Luke up and started toward him to hand the grumpy toddler over. She wasn't getting away yet. "All you have at your place is an avocado?" he asked innocently. The idea started to form on its own. "As far as something he can eat, that's about it. Other than superfoods I can blend into a smoothie, since everything else seems to want to poison me, that's all I could give him." He knew a little bit about her health problems, which was also how he knew she could eat everything he'd made for dinner. Just a little clever maneuvering on his part, this could be their first date. At least he would count it as their first date. This was his imaginary life, after all. Apparently, it could be whatever he wanted tonight. He took Luke into his arms. He struggled a little, wanting to go back into Emma's arms. He could relate, feeling a little jealous Luke got to snuggle into her first. He soothed Luke by rocking gently. "If you're hungry too, I made extra if you'd like." His heart froze until she smiled. "Smells wonderful, so good I'm pretty sure I can't eat any of it, but thank you. It's just some salmon steaks with vegetables, all fresh from the organic market, simple seasoning, no sugar." He watched her face in satisfaction as she realized it matched exactly what she could eat. She wasn't the only one that could ninja information. "How did you? Why would? What?" He hoped his grin wasn't as silly as it felt. "Your brother let me know a few things about your restrictions when you were in the hospital during one of our weekends at your parents' house. Nothing you can't eat. Whether you'll enjoy it, I can't guarantee, but you can eat everything. It's so hard to plan meals around all my restrictions. I usually just resort to smoothies so I'll have time in the day for other things. I feel very confident I would greatly enjoy eating whatever you made." So that's a yes? Did that really sound so needy? That thought vanished with the enthusiastic nod of her head, and he led them all to the table. From Emma's perspective, "Please sit," he asked, pulling out her chair with his free hand. Seeing him holding Luke, so secure and natural, was about the best foreplay she could have ever imagined. She was throbbing all over. She hadn't really seen very many guys holding babies, and it was sexy as hell. Or maybe it was just him holding a baby that had her mind rushing into all kinds of inappropriate images and fantasies. He made sure she was set, then deftly lowered Luke into his high chair. He quickly brought some salmon for Luke and broke it into several pieces for him to start eating. Luke quickly quieted and soon had a mouth and two fistfuls of salmon to occupy him. "Just a few minutes while I prepare your plate." His cocky grin made her mouth go dry. "Oh, I can help." This strange nervous energy was making her feel squirmy in her chair. Moving around would be a great relief. "No, no, you're my guest. I'll be right back." She couldn't see what he was doing with his back to her. Watching his shoulders and arms flex, though, had her feeling squirmier by the minute. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea. Is it really, really bad to change your mind after accepting dinner with a lawyer that smelled like it took a long time for him to prepare? It wasn't like he made it just for her. Her stomach growled in protest of her even thinking of leaving before at least one taste of whatever he brought to her. She took a moment to look around the house again. It had been a while since she'd seen the inside. She'd met Kim on outings, but hadn't dared set foot in this beautiful place since she'd almost been caught. She couldn't put into words how much she loved his house. He bought it right after Luke was left to him. He did most of the renovations himself before moving his little family in. She would never forget the first time she saw the place. If she could have dreamed of a perfect home, this is exactly what it would have looked like. There were warm wood floors, block beams along the ceiling to match the floors, soft colors on the wall, warm sunlight from the windows. It was quiet, cozy, comfortable, and perfect. What do you think of the place? The sudden question made her jump and make a completely bizarre noise she was sure she couldn't make again if she tried. He was just setting her dish down in front of her. It's perfect, she said honestly. I know it's nothing like what you grew up in, but I tried to make it comfortable. It's a million times better than what I grew up in. My house is more like a museum than a home. I understand you did most of the work yourself? She asked innocently, already knowing the answer. Humbly, he shrugged, and she repressed rolling her eyes. He put every spare minute he had and blood, sweat, and tears into making this house amazing for Luke. That boy won the daddy lottery. I used some skills that got me through college. And gave you the body of a Greek god, she thought to herself. What was that? He asked. Crap, did she say that out loud? You've got some crazy good skills then, she covered with an innocent smile. He watched her for a moment. She was sure she was turning red. The weight of his stare was making her feel very squirmy again. She distracted herself by turning her attention to her food and took her first bite. It was the most amazing thing she'd ever tasted, at least since her medical issues started. From John's perspective, when he heard the groan that rumbled from her at that first bite, his body once again tightened. He swore to feed her as often as possible from now on. He sat back down at his plate, broke up a few more pieces of fish and some vegetables for Luke, and let her enjoy her meal. After hearing her describe her eating habits, he was pretty sure this was the first meal she'd had to chew in a while. Everything she did fascinated him, from the way she enjoyed his cooking to how she dressed when she got to wear what she wanted, to how gentle and kind she was to everyone, to how fast she ate. Whoa, that was fast. She only had a few bites left. He smiled as he took his first bite. He felt so powerful taking care of his child and this amazing woman. Was this what it was like to be a husband? No, he wouldn't let himself even think that. This night was a nice dream, but she was still his best friend's little sister, a best friend he owed everything. His life would wear her down like it did him, and he was pretty sure her health would not take the full brunt of his life for long. He took a deep breath, pushed that thought away, and focused on enjoying this night, which he was very much. So our meeting got cut short. What else do we need to discuss? She asked as she tasted the last few crumbs on her plate with her fork. You're welcome to more if you'd like, he offered, having fun watching her concentrate so hard on her plate. I know I don't look it, but I'm really full. I just don't want to miss this last bite. When she had a goal, nothing would stop her if you remembered correctly. I was going to let you know the dates the experts were scheduled to examine the document. That way you could start arranging yours. That's the excuse he thought up while walking back from the woods after it was announced that Kim had found the boys and took them to dinner. He settled things with a neighbor and made a note of it before heading back to the office. He called her office only to be told she'd taken the rest of the day off. He had no idea it was to take care of his son. Her eyes left her plate and leveled a look at him that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand straight. Why? Was all she asked, but the tone said a whole paragraph. Why would I give you the dates? It's required, he said without stuttering or flinching, both of which he was proud of. I've followed your cases. You wait until the last minute to keep opposing counsel scrambling. It's one of your most effective moves. Why would you show your hand so early? He leveled a look back at her. Whether you know it or not, you've already torpedoed most of my first plays in one meeting. You don't play like the other lawyers, so I had to change my strategy too. She narrowed her eyes. What do you mean? The fact that you're asking me that proves my point. Usually the location of my office puts big city lawyers on guard. You drove up like you belonged there, and two more dings on your car, it would have looked like it belonged there too. Oh, she smiled and sat back in her chair. Lexus, Porsche, they'd be freaking out that they'd come back to a stripped car or no car at all. Exactly. Distracted through the whole meeting that would get worse the longer I kept them. By the way, I didn't put those dings on her. I found her that way and have an appointment to get them all fixed. I'm a safe driver, she added. John smiled and swallowed his bite. I know you are. Like he wouldn't know. She'd be too concerned to hurt anyone to even risk it. Lucky for me that nice man was there to watch it for me, she added. You mean my enforcer that I've seen make grown men wet themselves? No, that nice Trevel who agreed to watch my car. Yes, Trevel Williams, who I grew up with. He usually loves how nervous the silver spoon types get around him, yet you walked right up to him and started a conversation. He works for you? Yes, and now that you mention it, how much did you give him? He asked as he reached for his wallet. Emma's face went serious. Nothing. Emma, come on. He was actually there to watch your car. He makes the lawyers nervous, but it is the neighborhood it is. The last thing I need is for one of them to sue me for destruction or loss of property. Her face went innocent again, and she just shook her head. Nothing. I gave him my undying gratitude. I don't think you can fit that in your wallet. He rested his wallet on his leg. Aren't we a pair of disgraceful lawyers, each trying to give our money away to the other and each refusing? That is about the best compliment I've ever had in my life, she admitted out loud. That made him pause. You don't like being a lawyer? She shook her head. No, I mean, I'm glad I know the law, but the kind of litigation Delaney and Ross handles just doesn't interest me. Thankfully, after you decimated me my first case, Helene put me in charge of research, which has been way more interesting. The familiar guilt stabbed into his stomach at the memory. It had been his first case, and the information he had been able to obtain was irrefutable. Opposing counsel didn't have a chance, but he hated it was her. That was your first case? He must have looked upset because she reached for his hand again. Was he seeing a pattern? As lead, yes. Helene took it as a humiliating defeat at the time, but apparently you've proven way more destructive with everyone else you've come up against. Now I'm not looking half bad. He half smiled. I'm glad. Her eyes pulled at him, hard at the moment. His guilt eased, replaced by something else, something he didn't recognize or understand, but never wanted to end. Luke started rubbing his eyes after finishing his food. It must be his bedtime? She asked. John checked his watch. Yeah, actually, he moved to get him. Emma pulled at his hand. You haven't finished your dinner. Let me clean up, and when you're done, you can get him ready for bed. He wanted to argue, but she had already grabbed her dish and moved all unused items to the sink. She put the leftovers in the refrigerator and washed the dishes faster than any trust fund baby he'd ever known. He was pretty sure most of them he'd known from university didn't even know how to wash a dish. She wiped Luke's hands and face. Next, she wiped Luke's tray and high chair. Didn't miss a thing. By the time he finished with his meal, he insisted on washing his own dish while she wiped down the counters and swept the floors. Was she even real? He could feel it was time for her to leave soon. He wasn't ready for the fantasy to end. How could he keep her with him longer? Bath time, she asked, clearly knowing Luke's nighttime routine. Yep. Well, I should get going. Thank you for what I'm pretty sure was the best meal of my life, she gushed. Again, that impossible pride in himself over such a simple meal. They just looked at each other, but she didn't make any move to the door. Think, man. How hard could it be to find a reason to keep her here? His cell phone rang. When he checked the number, it was Megan. Oh, bless her lack of consideration for business hours and personal time. He looked back at Emma. I have to take this, and I can't call Kim to find out when she'll be back. Do you mind starting his bath? I'll be up as soon as I can. Really? I'd love to, she said excitedly and reached for the now groggy little man. Thank you. I really owe you. A rush of inappropriate things he hoped she'd ask for flooded his mind. They went upstairs in the fading sunlight, Luke giggling in Emma's arms. The fantasy he tried not to imagine was happening right in front of him. It wasn't until she disappeared around the corner that he answered his phone. Whatever Megan needed, he hoped it wouldn't take long.